Yes, hello, good evening. Time check, it's already 11:05 and I've just finished my lesson with 5-1 Talk, with my classes with 5-1 Talk, and tonight I am going to discuss to you the topic, my dear students. Okay, so let me share my screen with you. There you go. So for tonight, we are going to discuss about this. We will discuss about the meaning and importance of literature, and also we will discuss about literary standards. So let's proceed. For tonight, for your learning objectives, at the end of the lesson, you students shall be able to define literature, understand the importance of literature, explain the significance of literary works, and identify the process of aesthetic evaluation of written works of art. So let's have the first one. We will define literature as a term which refers to the sum total of man's imagination and experiences. Now, I want you to look at the word imagination. Well, when we say imagination, that is something that is created in one's mind. So we can say that literature is just a product of imagination, not real. That's why in literature we have what we call fiction. So when we say fiction, you learn this from your from the past. That when you say fiction, the characters could be in a book or a story or in a movie. The characters are not real. The situation is not real, or the story is not real, or even the events or the places. The places that have been used in a story or in the book are not real. So that's why there is a word imagination. And we also have experiences. So it is self-explanatory that when you say experiences, this is something that's really real. Experiences, these are real scenarios. These are real people. These are real events. So which we can say that this is for non-fiction literary works. So literature can be a product of imagination and experiences in life transferred from one generation to another. So it could be, so one generation to another, it means from the past or even to the present time, or could be in the future. Literature is a byproduct of life. According to Clive Stables Lewis, he was born he was born on November 29, 1898, and died on November 22nd, 1963. He was a British writer and a lay theologian. According to him, literature adds to reality. It does not simply describe it. It enriches the necessary competencies that daily life requires and provides. This statement of Lewis is means means that the life of the people improves. The life of the people becomes more complex. The skills are improving. So by means of literature, the life of the people becomes more interesting and become more developed as time goes by. Let's continue. And in this respect, it irrigates the deserts that our lives have already become. So by using the literature, or by means of literature, the life of people becomes more complex and becomes more developed. Now, our very own Cirilo F. Bautista, born on July 9, 1941, died on May 6, 2018. He was a Filipino poet, critic, and writer of nonfiction. Like what I mentioned a while ago, nonfiction, it means real. So the characters, the story, the setting are real. So he was actually an expert of writing and nonfiction literary works or literary pieces. He was a national artist of the Philippines. According to him, literature raises life to a new level of meaning and understanding, and in the process, restores sanity and justice in an insane and unjust world. So I want to emphasize the word sanity and justice. So according to him, literature is in the process of restoring sanity and justice. So by means of literature, it actually shows us what the life is, what the life has been, or what was the life before. Okay. And of course, by understanding what life is, I think it's really easy. According to him, maybe he wanted us to realize that literature would actually help us to to identify what's the main purpose of your life in this world and your very own reason of existing, the reason of your existence in this world. And by you accepting your purpose in life, that would actually help you to, to be connected in this world and to accept, to easily accept what your life has been. It is a known fact that literature deals with emotions, thoughts, and ideas of man. Well, this is very obvious. Someone who would like to write something, who would like to who would like to write, you really need to have like you really need to involve your emotions, your minds on it. So your emotions and your mind should join together or should work together. It provides different meanings to different lessons at different stages of their life. Thus, regardless of what you learn from a book, literature provides connection to the reader and to the world. Well, that is self-explanatory. The good thing about the good thing about reading books, actually it reflects what the life before and what the life has been, and it you connects the world, something that your eyes have not seen yet. By reading books, it it actually helps you to imagine the situation or the scenario by reading books. As long as you're reading, as long as you're reading a book and you are making yourself engaged to a literary piece, okay, by reading a literary piece, your mind would actually help you to imagine something, to imagine what's on that book. And by that, you are being more connected to the world in any part of the world. The word literature is derived from the Latin term literatura, which means writing form with letters. The term is further derived from litera, which means letter in English. Well, the good thing about the letter is putting one's mind in writing and putting one's emotion in writing. It would actually easier for writer authors to, to explain what his idea is and what he feels, exactly what he feels of something of. And he can definitely tell the readers the reason why he's writing this book. Others may interpret that literature can be any printed material written within a book or pamphlet. For some, it could be a result of one's imagination and expression. Now, let's discuss about the importance of literature. Number one, literature helps us grow both personally and intellectually. Well, personally, that's your personality, from the word itself, personality. It actually molds what kind of person you are. Now, you know that literature reflects the the morality within the society, so that molds your personality as well, and intellectually, since it becomes literature would also help you to become a critical reader, would also help you to become more critical thinker, I think. That's why literature helps you to grow both personally and intellectually. Number two, literature links us with the rest of the world, which we are a part. Well, this is very obvious by reading a lot of literary works, reading a lot of books. You can definitely imagine what the other side of the world is. You can imagine the culture of different nations or different countries. And that would, I think, that is the very reason why literature connects you to the other part of the world. Number three, literature enables us to transcend our immediate time, place, and culture, and to make connections with other human beings and their concerns. Well, that's still connected to number two. Number four, literature encourages us to develop mature empathy with all forms of life, human, animal, plants. Exactly. Well, because literature shows us the connections of everything in this world. Usually, literature um, shows or transpires about nature, about the connections of everything in the universe, okay, in this world. That's why in our local music or in our there is a song, wala ka bang napapansin sa ating mga kapaligiran, hindi naman masama ang pag-unlad at malayo-layo na rin ang ating narating. That song actually reminds me of number four, that all of everything in on this world are really connected. So number five, literature sharpens our sense of moral judgment. Definitely, like what I mentioned, with number what number is that? With number one, definitely literature shows the morality. So which one is good and which one is bad? Because what's really good with someone may be bad for you, or what's really good for other culture, for other countries, might be bad for other people in other countries. So that's how cultures become different to each other. Number six, literature stimulates our imagination and ingenuity. Number seven, literature shows the significance of irony, paradox, oxymoron, and ambivalence of life. Well, number seven, I think it talks about exaggeration, or it talks about like uh, like making the life of man become more complex and more interesting. When there is something is being exaggerated, I think it's something that's being emphasized. So literature helps humans lives to be emphasized to others in different aspect, of course, whether it's irony, paradox, oxymoron, and or oxymorons and the like. Number eight, literature allows us to see the world in different vantage points. Yes, I really agree because, like what I mentioned, the world or different countries have different, of course, literary works, and literary works, shows you literary works show you a different aspect or different culture, and what's something that's really good may not be good for others, may not be good for for the next people or the next one. So I think it really shows the world the different vantage points. So that's why it literature makes you a critical thinker sometimes. Number nine, literature relives history. Self-explanatory, definitely. Literature shows a culture, and it that's not only the culture from one generation to another generation. So definitely it will show you what the life before was. Number 10, literature reminds us that we are human beings. Exactly. And our connections, the connections of humans to this world would definitely would be tackled by by literature. Now, We also have some literary standards. Literary standards, studying different forms and genres of literature, is often based on the person's evaluative criteria. Well, evaluative criteria, this is how you look on certain literary pieces, right? There could be some criteria for that. It is based on this set of evaluative criteria that we choose, study, and appreciate specific literary work, especially during our leisure time. The choices we make based on this given criteria eventually determine our choice in studying different literary works that help us mold our character. So there are 7 literary standards. These are artistry, sub- subjectiveness, intellectual value, spiritual value, permanence, universality, and style. So for tonight, we are going to discuss also these 7 standards of literature. These are a set of characteristics to determine whether or not a work is literary. So it's very easy for you to say that if a certain literary piece reach the standard, so which means to say these are the standards of knowing whether a work is a literary or not. The criteria the criteria were developed by writer William J. Long in his textbook English Literature, its history, and its significance for the life of the English-speaking world definitely determines if a literary work is literary or not. Now let's discuss about universality. It's explained as literature appeals to everyone. So when you say universality, literature, everybody should appreciate, or maybe not everybody or not everyone, at least majority or most of the people should appreciate a literary work, regardless of culture, race, gender, and time, which are all considered significant. So, universality, it means it should respect the culture, the race and gender, and the time. Number second, artistry. Literature has an aesthetic, or also known as beauty. So when you say literary piece, it should be beautiful. It has aesthetic appeal and thus possesses a sense of beauty. So if that is something not really beautiful, something you cannot really appreciate, well, we cannot say that that's really a literary work. Okay, especially if there's no artistry in doing such a literary work. The third one is we have intellectual value. Literature stimulates critical thinking. I was actually explaining this a while ago. So a literature should actually help you to become a critical thinker. I think when a literary piece makes you a critical thinker, it actually spices up, or it gives you the meaning to be engaged more in whatever you're reading, whatever literary piece you are reading or you're looking at. So that's one of the characteristic. It should be intellectual value. It should make you think. It should always make you a critical thinker that enriches mental processes of abstract and reasoning, making man realize the fundamental truths of life and its nature. So, fundamental truths, let's talk about fundamental truths. It's very basic. When you say fundamental, basic, and truths. So, which means to say, a literary piece should also, make you a sense of realizing that this is very basic. This is what the truth is. So I should not explain it to you anymore. Okay. This is the truth. This is the basic truth about life. So you eat, something like you eat, you drink, and then you live, or sometimes you get married, okay? And then you have your own family, and then you die. Fundamental truth. But it's not all about that, okay? There is also what you call its nature. So what's the nature of the life? So it actually makes you think that, so what's the nature of life? What really life is? So I think what that's that's what makes it that's what makes a literary piece makes it more critical. So it gives you a sense of intellectual value. It's like you're searching for the meaning. You're searching for the meaning of life and its truth. Number four, suggestiveness. Literature unravels and conjures man's emotional power to define symbolism, nuances, implied meanings, images, and messages, giving and evoking visions above and beyond the plane of ordinary life and experiences. Well, this one is quite tricky, but don't get confused when you say unravels and conjures. It's something like um it's like a magic, okay. So just it actually gives you a sense of magic in your life. So as long as you're being engaged with the literary piece, as long as you make yourself engaged with the literature, it gives you a sense of, a sense of like a motivation that's for you. Everything is really magic, everything. So it's not always about being critical. Sometimes when you say magic, it's something that you cannot really explain, okay. there is something there is something about the literature, there is something about the literary piece that makes you that makes that makes you to say, wow, it's really wonderful, it's really something amazing, magnificent, something like that. So in a sense, it's not always you making a critical thinker that gives meaning. Sometimes there's something in this world that you cannot explain, and I think magic is also one, and that would actually gives your life a reason to become more interesting. Okay, so that's it. Suggestiveness. Number five, spiritual value. Literature elevates the spirit and the soul, and this has the power to motivate and inspire, drawn from the suggested morals of or lessons of different literary genres. Well, if there is a literary piece, if that's a literature, that's not always about beauty. It's not always about uh, the basic or the fundamental truth about life. There is always something beyond, and that is something that we cannot see. It's like when you read a literary piece, there is something that's happening inside you, and that's what we call spiritual value. Your personality and your being, your spiritual value is also being developed. So that's why in some literary piece, you may observe some literary pieces about religions, about beliefs of certain people in a certain community or a certain nation. That's why there's some literary piece like songs in churches, and also some spiritual um, scriptures like the Bible. Sometimes, right? You read the Bibles, and sometimes you may observe that there is something within you that's being changed inside of you. Okay, so I think that's what it makes a spiritual value visible with as one of the literary as one of the standards of literature. Number six is permanence. Permanence, literature endures across time and draws out the time factor. Now, I want you to look at the word timeliness. One of the characteristics of the literature, it should be timeliness or permanence, from the word itself, permanent. So no matter how long it was discovered, it was actually made by the author. Okay, even many years would pass. Okay, it should be timeliness. Literature can still be, you know, as beauty as the first time it was actually made by the author. Okay, it could be it means that you can appreciate the literary piece um, at no particular time. It could be it could even be be a long time, but it's still there. Your appreciation about the literary piece is still there. And I think this is very obvious to most of you guys, to most of you, that no matter how long the literary piece has had made at first, but you could still appreciate. Like most of the movies, I think. Sometimes most of the movies, even though the movie was really old, or the book or the story was really old, you still appreciate those, right? Um, like for example, the Bible. This is not to, to raise any particular religions in our country, but I know that most of you guys, you would still appreciate what the Bible tells you, even though it was written for a long time ago. And same with the stories that your mothers and your mothers story, no matter how long the story is, when you heard it for the first time, there you would still appreciate it, because the one of the characteristics or one of the standards of the literature, it should be, is permanence. Okay, permanence. So again, timeliness occurring at the particular time, and timeliness remaining invariable throughout time. And number seven, style. Literature, well, this is very self-explanatory. The style, literature present peculiar. Peculiar, it's really unique. Peculiar ways on how man sees life, as evidenced by the formation of his ideas, forms, structures, and expressions, which are marked by their memorable substance. Well, ideas, this is when you say style, it includes the how you will start the literary piece, how you're going to end the literary piece. You can start from the end part, going to the first part. Well, I know some of you, you're aware of this. There are some movies or some stories that you have read you have read that the author started from the end or from the last part, right? From the last part of the story, and then up to the first part of the story. So that could be one of the styles. You can also the structures and forms. You can also, when you say the forms, it's how the words are being used in the literary piece. It could be like a formal, it could be the author can sometimes use colloquials or slangs. It's there should be there should be a style in every literary piece. Okay, whether it's a fiction or a non-fiction literary piece. Okay, and expression, which are marked by their memorable substances. Okay, and my dear students, that ends our discussion for, well, for tonight, because I think it's 11:29. So it's just like I explained it to you for 30 minutes. So I hope you would learn something from what I've discussed uh, tonight, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.